Imagine this. You wake up one morning, just like any other day. The ceiling above you is the same. The air in your room feels unchanged, but something is off. You can't quite name it yet, but there's a strange emptiness, a feeling that something important has been missing all along. You go about your routine, brush your teeth, check your phone, answer messages, scroll past updates from people you barely know. It's all so automatic, so familiar. And yet, as you stand there, looking into the mirror, a realization creeps in. A thought so unsettling that you feel an icy chill run down your spine. Are you truly free? Not in the political sense, not in the way laws define freedom, but in the deepest, most personal sense. Are you free in your own mind? Because if you were, why do you keep repeating the same patterns, thinking the same thoughts, living in the same invisible loops? Why does every attempt at change feel like pulling against chains you can't even see? You tell yourself you want more out of life, yet your mind drags you back into the same doubts, fears, and distractions. You want to be confident, but old insecurities whisper in your ear. You want to be present, but your mind clings to the past and anxiously projects into the future. You tell yourself you're making your own choices, but deep down, something else, some force you don't fully understand, is pulling the strings. And then, the question strikes you like lightning. What if the greatest prison isn't made of walls and bars, but of beliefs and thoughts? What if the mind, the very thing you rely on to understand the world, has secretly been your captor all along? You felt it before, haven't you? That invisible weight, that resistance when you try to change, that voice that whispers you'll fail before you even begin. It's not physical, but it's powerful enough to shape your entire life. But here's the real paradox, the most terrifying realization of all. The prison of your own mind was never built by force. You built it yourself. And now, you live inside it, unaware of the keys dangling just beyond your reach. But what if you could escape? What if you could tear down the invisible walls, break the mental chains, and step into a world where you're no longer a prisoner of your past, your fears, or the expectations of others? The truth is, there's a way out. But before we talk about the escape, we need to expose the prison for what it really is. Because the scariest part, most people live their entire lives without ever realizing they're trapped. Let's go deeper. You were never given a map of your own mind. No one told you that from the moment you were born, you were being programmed. Not maliciously, not intentionally, but inevitably. Think about it. Before you even had a choice, the world started shaping you. Your parents, your teachers, your culture, all telling you what to believe, how to behave, who to be. They gave you rules, labels, and expectations. They told you what was possible, what was forbidden, what was good, and what was bad. At first, you resisted. All children do. But slowly, without even realizing it, you started to comply. You learned that some thoughts were unacceptable, so you buried them. Some emotions were inconvenient, so you suppressed them. Some dreams were unrealistic, so you abandoned them. And then, something terrifying happened. Over time, you stopped questioning. The walls of the prison had been built so gradually, so invisibly, that you mistook them for reality itself. Carl Jung called this the formation of the false self, the version of you that was shaped by external forces, rather than your own authentic nature. The false self wears a mask to fit in. It hides its fears, its rage, its desires. It plays the role it was given, not realizing it has lost touch with something deeper, the raw, untamed truth of who you really are. And here's the real tragedy. The mind convinces you that this prison is safe. Because stepping outside of it, that would mean confronting uncertainty. It would mean facing the parts of yourself you've ignored for years, the parts that don't fit the script you were given. Nietzsche warned of this long ago. He spoke of the slave morality, a way of thinking designed to keep people obedient, fearful of stepping outside the lines. He argued that most people never truly will their own existence. They merely follow inherited beliefs, reacting to life rather than creating it. Schopenhauer went even further. He believed that most people live under an illusion, the illusion that they are making choices freely, when in reality, they are pushed and pulled by hidden forces, biological instincts, societal conditioning, and unconscious fears. And here's where it gets even darker. The prison of the mind is not just personal, it is collective. Modern society feeds this mental captivity. It thrives on distraction, numbing you with endless entertainment, social media, and carefully crafted narratives. It keeps you addicted to validation, terrified of failure, drowning in comparisons, because the more lost you feel, the easier you are to control. Aldous Huxley predicted this with chilling accuracy. He warned that the future wouldn't need brute force to suppress people. Instead, they would be drowned in pleasure, lulled into submission by comfort and convenience. He described a world where people willingly enslave themselves, because breaking free would require something most are unwilling to face: discomfort. And so, the cycle continues. You feel the prison, but you don't fight it. You sense that something is wrong, but instead of breaking free, you distract yourself. You scroll, you consume, you chase dopamine hits that never last. But here's the truth. The prison only survives as long as you obey it. And if you have the courage to see it for what it is, you can begin to destroy it. But before we discuss how to break free, you need to understand just how deep this trap goes. Because the consequences of staying inside, they're worse than you think. Let's go even deeper. You might think, so what? Maybe I live with some mental limitations. Maybe I follow a script. But does it really matter? It does, more than you realize. Because the prison of your mind doesn't just keep you stuck, it warps everything. Your choices, your relationships, your happiness, even your sense of reality itself. You don't just live inside the prison, you become it. You have dreams, ideas, a version of yourself you once believed you could become. But how many times have you felt an invisible force holding you back? The quiet hesitation before speaking your mind. The self-doubt creeping in just as you're about to take a risk. That force is fear, the silent enforcer of the prison, and it disguises itself as being realistic or waiting for the right time. But here's the truth. There is no right time. There is only now. And every moment you hesitate, your potential dies a little more. Look around. Everywhere you turn, there's something designed to steal your focus: social media, endless entertainment, infinite scrolling. Every second, new content appears, keeping your mind occupied but never fulfilled. And that's the trick. A distracted mind is a controlled mind. It never stops long enough to ask real questions. It never pauses to reflect, to deconstruct its own limitations. It just consumes, reacts, numbs itself against the discomfort of deep thinking. This is not an accident. It's a system. Because the more time you waste on meaningless distractions, the less time you have to break free. Every human being carries two selves inside them. The false self, the conditioned, obedient part of you that plays by society's rules, follows expectations, and avoids discomfort. The true self, the raw, untamed version of you that exists beneath all the programming. And every day, there is a war between them. When you feel lost, anxious, or unfulfilled, it's because the true self is screaming, trying to break through. But the false self is stronger, fed by years of conditioning, reinforced by fears, trained to keep you inside the prison. Most people never win this war. They live as their false selves, chasing things they don't really want, following paths they never chose, pretending to be happy while secretly feeling hollow inside. And worst of all, they convince themselves this is just how life is. Imagine reaching the end of your life and realizing you never truly lived, that you spent years playing it safe, avoiding discomfort, following paths others laid out for you, that you ignored the voice inside you, the one that knew you were meant for more but was drowned out by fear, doubt, and distraction. This is the greatest tragedy of all. Not failure, not rejection, but never truly waking up. Because in the end, the prison doesn't kill you quickly. It doesn't need to. It just keeps you comfortable enough to never escape. And that's how the mind wins. Unless you do something radical. Unless you commit the ultimate act of rebellion, breaking free. But how? How do you dismantle a prison that you cannot see? That's what comes next. Because now that you understand the depth of the trap, it's time for the only thing that matters. Escape. Most people never escape the prison of their own mind. Not because they can't, but because they don't realize they are the ones holding the key. You've been conditioned to believe that change comes from the outside, that you need permission, validation, or the right moment to begin. That's the first lie you must destroy. No one is coming to save you. No teacher, no guru, no system is going to grant you freedom. The only way out is rebellion, not against society, not against others, but against the conditioned version of yourself that has been keeping you trapped. But rebellion is dangerous. It requires a radical shift in perspective, one that challenges everything you thought you knew. Are you ready for that? Because once you see the truth, you can't unsee it. Your identity, the you that you believe yourself to be, is not real. It was shaped by childhood experiences, social conditioning, and unconscious fears. It was built for survival, not freedom. And as long as you cling to this false self, you will never escape. Carl Jung called this process individuation, the painful but necessary destruction of the false self to uncover the true self. This is why real transformation feels like death, because in a way, it is. The person you thought you were must die for the person you were meant to be to emerge. And that's terrifying. Because if you are not who you always thought you were, then who are you? The answer is not in the past. It's not in your labels, your fears, or your habits. It is beyond all of that. But to find it, you must be willing to let go. The prison of your mind survives on one thing: compliance. It needs you to follow the routine, stay distracted, seek comfort, and obey the narrative. It feeds on your passivity. So, what happens when you refuse? When you stop consuming meaningless content? When you stop escaping into distraction? When you stop seeking approval? When you stop reacting like a programmed machine? The prison weakens, and in its place, something awakens. Something ancient, raw, and untamed. Your will. Nietzsche called it the will to power, the ability to create your own meaning instead of inheriting one. He believed that most people lived as slaves to societal values because they lacked this inner fire, the power to decide for themselves what life should be. That fire exists inside you, but it is buried beneath years of fear, conditioning, and self-doubt. You must ignite it. Which brings us to the next step. Every time you choose comfort over challenge, you reinforce the prison. Every time you avoid discomfort, you teach your mind that fear wins. But here's the secret. Discomfort is not your enemy. It is your weapon. It is the tool that will burn down the prison if you have the courage to wield it. Start with the small things. Do what scares you. Speak up when your voice shakes. Make the move before you feel ready. Break the pattern. If your days look the same, change something. Take a new route. Learn a new skill. Challenge an old belief. Face the resistance head on. When your mind says, I can't, prove it wrong. When fear tells you to wait, go now. You will feel resistance. You will feel discomfort. That is proof that you are escaping. Because freedom is not given, it is taken. And the only ones who take it are those willing to suffer for it. Escaping the prison is not just about tearing down the walls, it is about building something greater in its place. Your mind is like a house. If you don't build it consciously, someone else will build it for you. So, the question is, what kind of mind will you create? One ruled by fear, passivity, and distraction, or one driven by strength, clarity, and self-mastery? You must become the architect of your own mind, and that means controlling what you feed it. Stop letting garbage in. The books you read, the ideas you consume, the voices you listen to, these shape you. Choose wisely, training it like a warrior. Your thoughts are either weapons or weaknesses. Discipline them. Make them serve you, not control you. Guarding your time like your life depends on it, because it does. Every wasted hour is a brick in the walls of your old prison. And most importantly, never stop questioning. Because the moment you stop, the prison starts rebuilding itself. This is the rebellion. It is not easy. It is not comfortable. And most people will never take it. But for those who do, they never go back. Now there is only one thing left. The final, most powerful realization. The ultimate truth. Are you ready? You've torn down the walls. You've faced the truth. You've rebelled against the illusions that once held you captive. But now, standing in the wreckage of your old self, one final question remains. What comes next? Because here's what no one tells you about freedom. It is terrifying. Most people secretly fear freedom, not because they don't want it, but because freedom means responsibility. When you were trapped in the prison of your mind, at least you had an excuse. You could blame society, your past, your fears, anything but yourself. But now, there is no one left to blame. There is no system holding you back, no invisible force keeping you small. If you fail now, it's because you chose to. And that's what most people can't handle, because if you are truly free, then everything is on you. Jean-Paul Sartre called this the burden of radical freedom. The moment you realize that there is no grand authority dictating your life. You are the only creator of your existence. No more waiting for permission. No more hoping for signs. No more searching for someone to save you. You are the answer you've been waiting for. But that level of responsibility, it is too much for most people. So they run. They retreat back into distraction, conformity, and comfortable illusions. But if you are here, if you've come this far, you have a choice. You can run back to the prison, or you can step into the unknown. The truth is, you have been free all along. The prison was never real. It was a construct, a story you were told, a script you inherited, a set of invisible rules you never questioned. But now, without those rules, something incredible happens. You realize that reality is not something you passively experience. Reality is something you create. This is what Nietzsche meant by becoming the Übermensch, the individual who transcends inherited beliefs and carves their own path. You can rewrite the narrative. You can decide who you want to be. You can shape your mind, your habits, your life, consciously, deliberately, powerfully. And if you truly understand this, then nothing is impossible. There is no magic ending, no final revelation that makes life easy. The truth is unsettling. Because once you see the prison for what it is, you can never go back. And that's the real test. Most people, when given freedom, choose to return to captivity. They choose comfort over truth. They choose distraction over mastery. They choose to remain prisoners even when the door is wide open. But you have a choice. You can wake up. You can break free from the cycle. You can take ownership of your mind, your choices, your reality. Or you can pretend you never saw the truth. You can step back into the old patterns. You can tell yourself it was all just a passing thought. No one will stop you. But if you go back, remember this. One day, you will wake up again. You will feel the weight of the invisible chains. You will hear the voice inside you whisper, "This is not the life you were meant to live." And on that day, you will have to face the question once more. Will you escape, or will you remain a prisoner? The door is open. Step through it.